Okay, so what we're going to talk about here is a custom paint job on a BlackBerry 8700. This is an 8700 for Cingular AT&T. As you can see, this is sort of like a bluish gray. It's kind of an ugly color, actually. I want to paint it black. This is the actual phone itself over here. We have to dust that off. Screen's in real nice shape. This is just, you can see what it looks like. The way these are put together, that is sort of the center unit, and then you have the front and back. Instead of showing how I disassemble it and how I tape it up and everything, I figured I would just, because there's other videos on YouTube to see how to disassemble it. I figured I'd show you what it looks like before. When you're painting, when you're doing a custom paint job on a phone case, you gotta always make sure you tape the back of the screen as well as the front. What I do is I put the tape on, and then I use a utility knife, and I go around the edges. Here I'm not quite so worried about the inside, because this is the inside of the battery cover, but I put it in here to protect the speaker and everything. And then this is the battery cover here. Somebody will probably say, well, why are you going to paint it? Why don't you just buy a black case? Well, I could just buy a black case, but I actually enjoy this. Another thing you want to make sure you're taking out, here's the microphone. This is where the microphone goes. There's a little hole here. The microphone actually comes out. That's it right there. You can carefully pry that out and set it aside. You don't want to get paint in there. So anyway, what we'll do now is take this out and set these onto a clean piece of paper, or maybe even a board, like a thin piece of plywood. So anyway, that's the 8700 for Cingular. I think it's a really ugly color, silver, and I'm going to paint it black. And I do one thing that I do, you can get these in dark blue or black as unlocked phones. At least this is in a domestic, United States market. This came in this configuration for Cingular, and then it came in a similar configuration, although it looked more like a Batman phone for T-Mobile, but it was blue, and it was a little bit different. It had a BlackBerry logo on the back, but I mean, it still had the speakerphone here, and it was still the same keyboard layout. But anyway, this is going to look nice. The paint I'm going to use is, like I said, it's a Rust-Oleum. I'll give you the exact style of paint or type of paint, model number of the paint, whatever. And this kind of gives it a little texture, but not too much. This case is a very shiny kind of plastic that's already been painted. As you can see, there's a scratch in the battery cover, and well, it's black plastic under this paint. So part of me thinks, well, maybe I could dip this whole thing into something and take off the paint and then buff the plastic, but that's just too much work. Not that this isn't a lot of work, because this obviously is a lot of work just to paint a phone, but this is just a hobby of mine. It's something I enjoy doing. I've painted Game Boys, I've painted other cell phones just for fun, and you want to make sure that you do two things to prep the surface. You want to make sure that you gently clean this, and see, this is very delicate here where these keys come through. I mean, you wouldn't want to push on that too hard, but you want to, with a paper towel, maybe with some Windex or some type of a degreasing solution, or some maybe alcohol. I mean, I really don't know, to be honest with you. I guess I would use whatever's handy, but alcohol would probably be alright. You want to wipe this down to get any fingerprints, any tape residue off of it. A lot of times these phones, especially an older phone like this, I mean, it's full of dust on the inside. You got to wipe that out. And then you want to scuff sand this. You want to knock the gloss off of this, is what I'm getting at. You want to knock the gloss off of it and then dust it off really good before you actually paint it. Otherwise, it'll just look bad. Another thing is, it's almost like doing body work on a car, because if you notice, especially on an older cell phone, a lot of times there'll be, now this one's not bad, but there's dents and dings and stuff around the edges. Well, when you're painting it, since you're already scuffing the surface up, it does give you a chance as long as they're not too deep, to sort of sand these down. I mean, this is a pretty big gash right here. I mean, I'd almost have to break out the body filler and Bondo to fill that in. I don't know. It looks almost like somebody hit that with a file or something. You know, to be honest with you, I'm not trying to put Bondo on an old BlackBerry, but at this stage, you could do that. And a lot of times these things, if they haven't been kept in a case, this one actually isn't bad, but a lot of times these things will be all chipped up at the corners. Oh, another thing, the indicator light right here, that actually comes out. It's glued in with just a tiny little bit of maybe crazy glue or something. This is the indicator light. I don't know if you can, I don't know if the camera will be able to see that. That actually goes inside that from the back. And you want to take that out because you wouldn't want to paint over that. Well, anyway, it always takes longer to prep the surfaces and get everything taped off really neatly than it actually does to paint. But I'm going to go outside and paint, and I'll show the result of it after it's painted and dried, and then I'll show it when it's all reassembled. All right, we got the finished product here. Back, battery cover, back, front. I want to make a correction to something I said earlier. I'm not using Krylon. It's Rust-Oleum. It's Rust-Oleum satin finish plastic paint, and I believe I got it at Lowe's. Good paint job. You want to make sure that you get just enough. The label on the bottle always says, you know, 2 light coats rather than 1 heavy coat. But honestly, 2 light coats is not going to really be what you're looking for on something like this, because there's so many contours on these things that if you put just a little too much, you're going to have runs all over it. Now, I wish the camera was a little bit better quality, but this actually came out looking really good. There was a scratch in the battery cover. You can still see it, but it looks alright. The front, I'm very happy with the way the front looked, and you know, it's going to look nice. So it dries. It dries very slowly. That's the only problem with this Rust-Oleum plastic paint. It dries really slowly. I've seen, you know, I've used some nice Krylon lacquers for wood that'll dry. You know, lacquer spray paints that'll dry in, you know, 15 minutes almost. This stuff really takes about a day to dry. It takes about an hour or two for the high gloss to go away, for it to actually start to take on the matte finish. The semi-gloss finish is actually what it is. But it's a very dull semi-gloss. I mean, there's really not a whole lot of shine to it at all. But anyway, once I get it put back together, we will post another video. Okay, so this is the completed phone. Okay, got it put back together. As you can see, looks pretty nice. All black. You can see that scratch that was in the back. But, you know, aside of putting Bondo and filler in there, there's really no way you're going to get that out. It was pretty deep. And this is a 8700 BlackBerry for Cingular. And to the best of my knowledge, these only ever came in silver. It's like a really ugly blue silver color. And now we've got a Rust-Oleum semi-gloss satin finish plastic paint look on this thing. As you can see, it looks pretty nice. I would turn the phone on and show you that it works, but unfortunately I don't have a battery for it. But the phone does work. So that's what it looks like when it's all done. Yes, I guess you could buy a new BlackBerry case or something like that, but the nice thing about this is that it's still got the BlackBerry logo. It's still, you know, it has a little bit of hairline scratches on the screen, but I mean, that just makes it look, that's the way it should look. I mean, if you slap a new exterior case on, a lot of times they're not OEM, and you know, they don't have the same thing. They don't have the same overall look. One of the things I noticed about this, and maybe you guys have noticed this too, it's hard to see when the phone is together, but this screen is actually has some magnification in it. I noticed when I had it held over something that it magnifies the screen. The screen that's actually inside the phone it's not a small screen, but it's not as big as some of the other BlackBerry screens, and this makes it look a little bit bigger. It's got the original carrier branding on it. You know, I would rather paint it than buy a replacement case. It's just more my style. Anyway, the phone went back together fine, no major issues. It's a little tricky to put the phone back together. You kind of have to lay the keyboard in first, and then put the buttons in, and then you have to sort of put the subframe, which is this thing. I didn't want to get into that. I mean, there's plenty of videos about that, but this is what the phone looks like. It's a Cingular BlackBerry 8700, and it's been painted black from the bluish silver. All right, have a great day.